And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive Friday, January 23rd. Interesting slate ahead of us. We got a 6-gamer. 1 game locking at 7. 3 more at 7:30. 2 more at 8. We also have a 9:30 and a 10 out there if you want to play the late slate. Plenty to talk about. Interesting value. Kind of loaded up in the 7K range, which we'll have that conversation for. But we've got plenty of time to break it all down. And it doesn't just end when we're gone. Live before lock at 6 p.m. makes it super simple. So hit the like button right now if you can. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman. And then follow DK on Twitter at DK__DFS. What's good, dude?
Yeah, doing pretty well. I am not leaving my apartment since it's like negative degrees outside here in Chicago. But I was kind of hoping we would get the 2 night games on this slate. Do have some takes on Denver, but unfortunately we're not going to get that. So that's a little bit frustrating. But overall, I think it's a decent 6-game main slate. So
I would have liked the late games as well. No different than pretty much every other day because they're not that late today, but late enough apparently, so they are not involved. We are going to be playing quite a bit of the Memphis Grizzlies today. We are going to be playing quite a bit of the Oklahoma City Thunder today, and then I think we've got some angles that we could hit that are popping up, some guys that aren't getting the ownership that they really deserve. But we're going to start it off with honestly one of the weirder spots to me today: Detroit and Houston. This one is in Detroit. And for Houston, we know that there's no Steven Adams right now. He's out with the grade 3 ankle sprain, which is like an amputation at that point. Not good. Tari Eason out. Aaron Holiday questionable, shouldn't matter. On the Pistons side, Cade is officially probable. He was questionable earlier. Ron Holland also probable. This is a very low total. This is 2 very much defensive teams. The highest owned guy in this game is 8% owned Kevin Durant. You can get anybody you want in this game, and you're not going to be fighting anybody for ownership. But it does lock at 7, which limits anything you want to do for late swaps at 7:30 and 8 o'clock. And it's obviously a terrible game environment. But we've got Kevin Durant, Alperen Şengün, Cade Cunningham, plus a bunch of other dudes on a relatively small slate. How do you want to manage this first game?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, especially on the Houston side because they're missing a few pieces. You got no Tari Eason, obviously you mentioned no Adams, no Dorian Finney-Smith. And so they're relatively short-handed here, but really not the best spot against the Pistons, and price points, like no one really stands out. So looking at the ownership right now, you got like KD and Şengün a little above 5%, 9,500 for Şengün, 9K for Durant. I think both those guys are playable contrarian options. Şengün, I could see this being a game where he pushes like 35 plus minutes just because they're so shorthanded in the front court. Like you'll see a little bit of Capella, but I would not be surprised if we get kind of that ceiling minutes game here for Şengün. KD's price point is still up a bit from when Şengün was out for a bit. The ball handling role has been decent though for Kevin Durant. Like over the last 4 games, potential assists have been up. Had 7, 8, 7, and then 3 assists over the last 4 games. So that is good to see, but it's just like 95 and 9K like price points are kind of tough to feel great about either of those guys. $8,500 for Ben Thompson, I think is even tougher to get to. He's only projecting about 2% ownership. You got Jabari Smith price up a bit at 6.3K. He's getting no ownership. I think it's tough to go there. Kogi should get the start here. He's 3,400. Now, I think he's at least playable because small forward is so gross on this slate. There's really not many great options at all. And if you wanted to punt it with a Kogi, I think it's reasonable. I could see him playing a few extra minutes here without Eason and without Dorian Finney-Smith. So I think at least viable there in a large field tournament. Reed Shepherd minutes you would think would be more secure. Right now projecting for about 25 minutes, only about 3% ownership. Someone I think you can include in large field tournaments. Capella probably plays the non-Şengün minutes. Minutes have not been great on him, so you would probably need foul trouble to get the ceiling game from Capella. We do have some good value centers we'll talk about, especially Jalen Williams on Oklahoma City. So don't know if I want to lock up one of my center spots with Capella. So yeah, overall, I know Houston's relatively shorthanded here, but for DFS purposes, there's not a ton that stands out to me.
If this game were at 8 instead of 7, I would love the idea of going into lock with like too much Durant, too much Şengün, too much Cade, and then figure it out from there. Because I do think these guys are just, in general, underrepresented for what should be a relatively competitive game. Obviously, they're behind the 8 ball because they're projected for like 35, 40 less fantasy points than most of these other games. But this does seem like an interesting place where you can still soak up a ton of the ownership coming in from the Grizzlies side, from the OKC side. And then like, if your one pay up is being different to get Durant or Şengün, or to like really pay up to be different and get Cade, I do find it interesting. Cade's probably the one that like scares me the most. I think the path for Şengün feels the most natural, especially because you can put him in at power forward. If I were taking a stand on one dude from this game, I think it would be Şengün. But I mean, getting guard forward eligibility for 9K on Durant, I just never feel like, I mean, what did Durant do? Was it last game or 2 games ago where he had like a monster, but it wasn't a monster for fantasy purposes?
That was last game where he had 36 real life points, but only went for 49 fancy points.
Yeah. Like that I feel like you get that so frequently. Where like you never look at the box score and you're like, oh, KD didn't play that well. It's like he always plays well. I don't feel like he's ever the DFS dude I need, but guard forward on a day like today, I do have at least a little bit more interest in those top guys. After that, it does become difficult to figure out like which bullet you would want to fire on a Asar Thompson, Reed Shepherd, Jabari, Tobias. That's where it starts to get like bunched up. I like paying up to be contrarian for those top 3 dudes today.
Yeah. I think any of the spend ups are definitely interesting contrarian plays. Like on the Detroit side, also no ownership, Cade about 5%. I think that's interesting. You know, Pistons, the last time we saw everyone healthy, that was 2 games ago against Boston. That was a pretty big game. And we saw the starters get extended a bit. So yeah, for the most part this year, Detroit's been running a pretty deep rotation, 10 guys. No one really outside of Cade playing a ton, but that game 2 games ago, we saw Asar Thompson play 27 minutes, Duran 31, Cade played 40, Duncan played 31, and Tobias played 35. So I think Detroit leaning on the starters here is in the range of outcomes, you know, with it being a big game against Houston. So I think those guys are at least playable. None of them really getting any ownership. Again, I think Cade would be my preferred option of the starters, but you know, Duran, Asar, Tobias, Duncan, I think you can at least make the argument for them in tournaments and kind of hope that you get that rotation like we saw 2 games ago. But I don't have a ton of confidence in it. And it's also not a great spot for Detroit either against Houston. So, like it's going to be a great real life game. I wish I could watch some of this, but for DFS, I don't think this is going to be a game you want a ton of exposure to.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think it becomes too limiting trying to late swap for 7:30 and for 8 by locking this in. I'll touch more a little bit on Durant, Şengün, and Cade as we hit some of the other pay-ups that are grabbing ownership. Maybe we could talk about the way the boom rates look. Feels a little bit like my Joel Embiid take from yesterday. So we shall see. Let me pull it up on the FanDuel side as well. I think we're very live to see dramatically different ownership across the sites today. And in this one, it's basically the same. Kevin Durant, a little bit more popular on the FanDuel side, about 15% owned. 8,700 small forward, power forward eligible. Clearly have no issue grabbing KD at that price tag. Cade at 10.5, 8% owned. He's your next highest owned guy. So when it comes to FanDuel, this Rockets-Pistons game looks almost identical to what it does on DraftKings. Just a little bit more popularity to KD. Larry, what happened to Chris Middleton yesterday? I didn't see it. Was he bad? I wonder who recommended him. Probably some moron on this show, if I had to guess. Just in case you didn't see it, that was actually me. He played more than I expected. I would have played more of him if I knew his minutes before the day started.
I played Middleton too. That was pretty tilting. Yeah, luckily faded Champagny, but landed on the dud there in Middleton. So
yeah. When I opened up the app, like I knew he was cooked, but I didn't pay. Like once I knew he was dead, I didn't really pay attention. When I opened up the box score this morning and saw that he played 28 minutes, I was like, "You've got to be kidding me!" I got like the good version of this, and it went so poorly.
Yeah, you got ceiling minutes and still didn't get rewarded for it. So
if I knew he had 28 minutes, I probably would have had 100% of Chris Middleton if you told me he had 28 minutes last night. And I'm the only one that knows that. That's like invaluable information, and he sucked.
Meanwhile, the fall asleep at the wheel people, Noah Penda, get rewarded with a ceiling game. The game, like DFS, man, there's no justice in this game. It's very, very tilting. So
it is. So we'll try to put ourselves in the best possible spot today, and that will lead us to the Phoenix Suns, the Atlanta Hawks. Hawks are 3.5-point dogs at home for this one. Nobody on the Suns injury report. They're all good to go. On the Hawks side, no Kristaps Porzingis, no Zachary Risache. So for this one, we've got a very interesting amount of ownership coming into a $5,300 Mark Williams. He's about 25% owned. We get a Kongwu, Grayson Allen, Jalen Johnson, all around 10. Everybody else here in the single digits. Let's have a bit of a conversation about Mark Williams, shall we? Because 5,300, center only. The question will be, does he play 20 minutes today or 30 minutes today? Because it seems to be one of the two and never the middle, and I don't know what to do with that. What do you do with Mark Williams?
Yeah, so he's just always someone that I prefer getting to at lower ownership as opposed to higher ownership because that relatively wide range of outcomes that you talked about. There are games where Mark Williams is playing well and he will close and can play close to 30 minutes. And there's also games where he struggles, gets played off the court, plays like around 20 minutes, and they close with Oso. And so if he's like low owned, then I'm way more inclined to take a shot on Mark Williams. But right now, it feels like the field is pretty confident in Mark Williams, projecting about 30% ownership. So I think I can look to pivots in that price range. It obviously is scary because Mark Williams is a pretty good point per minute player. And if he does play well and plays close to 30 minutes and you fade him, you could be in deep trouble. But yeah, it's really just the ownership thing with Mark Williams. If he was a bit lower owned, I would like him a lot more. But right now, about a third of the field expected to play him. If that holds, I think I'm okay not having him.
Yeah, it just feels like there's easier ways to find something at a discount at center today in comparison to what that is. That said, like he's almost guaranteed now to be a chalk smash if we talk about it like this. Speaking of, I forgot to DM you about it. Did you see Luke Kennard's game from 2 days ago?
He had like an insane game, didn't he? Like he went for like 40 fancy points.
I remember being like, oh no, like I wouldn't want Luke Kennard, but now that I'm saying it, I'm sure he's going to be like perfect from the field. And when I opened the app at one point, he was like either 6 of 6 or 7 for 7 from the field at that point. I don't know what else he did because I didn't want to know. Now I'm just trying to figure it out and go back and look at his box score. So that would have been the Grizzlies game. And now I just have to remember. 25 minutes, 18 points, 7 of 9 from the field, 4 boards, 2 assists, and 2 steals. I also had over 1.5 stocks for Jalen Johnson, but Luke Kennard got it, CJ McCollum got it, Onyeka Okongwu got it, Nickeil Alexander-Walker got it, and Christian Koloko got it in 11 minutes. But unfortunately, Jalen Johnson didn't in 39. That was for a 6 of 6 on Prize Picks.
That's tilting. Because someone in chat said he had 32 at 3,200, which is like an absolute smash. So yeah, maybe we go 2 for 2 on this, and Mark Williams goes for like 50.
Dude. Chat will be able to do it right now, and I bet every single person in chat probably has a different example. I have spoke somebody into existence on every slate of the year. It's so crazy. The moment I tell you guys that this dude sucks, that guy's gonna have a wilt game on the slate. Mm-hmm. It's awful. It's so awful. What do you want to do with the rest of this game, though? Because outside of Mark Williams, it's pretty pedestrian ownership across the board. Anything jumping out to you from the Atlanta or Phoenix side?
Yeah, so finishing up Phoenix, I don't think there's a ton else here that like really stands out to me. Obviously, Jalen Green, first game back, played about 20 minutes. He's a guy that's going to be a relatively high usage player when he's out there. Had about a 20% usage rate in those limited minutes. So that definitely does affect the minutes for some of these other pieces. You know, guys like Royce O'Neal, Colin Gillespie, Dylan Brooks, Grayson Allen, guys like that. Allen next in line in ownership, about 10%. I don't really think it's because he stands out as a really good play. I think it's because he's got shooting guard, small forward eligibility. And again, small forward is really, really gross in the slate. So I understand why he's getting some love, but doesn't really project super well. Devin Booker, 8,800 is just like a last guy in, projecting about 10% ownership. Obviously, can still have a ceiling game, but doesn't really stand out. Same thing with Dylan Brooks, about 5%. So yeah, like I feel like I should like a little bit more here for Phoenix, but it just price points plus again Jalen Green back and yeah, so I think it's tough for me to feel great about any of these like secondary pieces.
This just feels like an entire team of on both sides of guys that are priced exactly where they should be for a slate, save for Mark Williams. And Mark Williams is obviously just a very unique experience right now in comparison to most of the other dudes. But like, as I look at, I don't know how, like, yeah, Grayson Allen's got great positional eligibility. Just a guy. How do you feel about Jalen Johnson in relationship to Durant, Cade, Şengün?
So I slightly prefer Jalen Johnson. And it's just really, I think the ceiling's just a bit higher on him right now. Minutes have been really good for Jalen Johnson as well. He's averaging close to 40 minutes a game now in competitive games. He played 39 minutes last game. So, yeah, I think for me, I would give the edge there to Jalen. He's gone for 60 fantasy points in back-to-back games. Matchup against Phoenix, not necessarily the best, but yeah, I think I would give the edge to him over those spin-ups we talked about in the first game. Do you have a preference there?
I typically prefer Jalen Johnson in these scenarios because I think he has the most volatile outcome because he hits all of the statistical, well, not blocks and steals, but points, rebounds, and assists. He has no problem acquiring on days where I need them. It would be between Jalen Johnson and Şengün for me.
Okay.
Because I never feel that way about Durant, and I just prefer Jalen Johnson against Phoenix more than I prefer Cade against Houston. They're both live to play 39 minutes today if it's competitive. So there is that. But yeah, I would probably be on the Jalen Johnson side. I don't have much interest in Devin Booker. He's kind of like the Kevin Durant of the Suns, which used to be Kevin Durant, but I never feel like I get him unless he's in a late game and I'm late swapping to him because I have lineups that already suck that need a contrarian piece. But like, I can't. Dylan Brooks, Dyson Daniels, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, they don't separate in any way. Like all these guys, like, yeah, one or two of these dudes from this game are going to be good. But I think there's like 8 guys that are exactly the same. And that's what we see, whether it's boom rates, whether it's optimal rates. You know, you get down past Devin Booker, 15, 17, 17, 12, 15, 12. Those are all the same guy at a different price tag and a different salary structure. I think we just have a lot of games that look better than this as we move through the slate.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there. Like a lot, like Dyson Daniels, like Nickeil, CJ, those guys look pretty similar to the Suns guys that we talked about. I will say, I think Okongwu is a pretty solid option, projecting for about 10% ownership. I think, he got in some foul trouble last game, so I wouldn't be super worried about that. Only playing 28 minutes. Usually in a competitive game, he's close to 35 minutes. So I think he's a pretty solid option on Atlanta. Probably him and Jalen would be the two options I would look to there. The value, I think it's tough to feel great about for the Hawks. So we've seen the last couple of games, Corey Kispert at the start, but it's kind of been spot starty. Like last game, he just played the first quarter and the third quarter. Krejci only played 10 minutes off the bench. Like Kennard, was that the game that he had the big game where he played 24? Yeah. We played 24 minutes, so that kind of makes some sense. But yeah, I don't think there's really much here for value for Atlanta, even though they're going to run a relatively tight rotation. I think there's better value in the later games, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, that's really the problem here. We have so much value in some of these other games that we're about to talk to. And that's sort of why I have all of this interest or some interest in Jalen Johnson, Kevin Durant, Alperen Şengün, Cade Cunningham, because I think that's the way to get a little bit more different, is rotating through those pay up options in situations where we have this value that's like mostly unassailable. On the FanDuel side, 16% ownership to Devin Booker, a similar amount of ownership for Onyeka Okongwu and Jalen Johnson. They're all three of them around 15. Mark Williams a hair under that, about 12.5, 5,900, center different on FanDuel, as you know. After that, everybody's sub 10%. So a little bit more ownership to like the main dudes in this game, but ultimately this looks pretty darn similar to what we have on DraftKings. We did get a super chat here from Holden. Would you pay up slightly for Pritchard or down for Simons and or Hauser, or ignore all and play Jalen, firing a single bullet in the 888? Well, that's a perfect opportunity for that question, because that is the next game that we are going to pull up here. So we'll sort of touch on it as we walk through it. Boston Celtics, 7.5 point favorites in Brooklyn, 216 total. And for those that are curious, this is actually a 1 point lower total than the Detroit and Houston game. Thanks to Brooklyn for that one. Josh Minot still out. Neemias Queta questionable. Midday downgrade as well. We'll keep an eye on that one. For Brooklyn, they are essentially at full strength, whatever that is. Wait, hold on. Has that not? Okay, I guess we missed the other major point for the Boston Celtics, which is Derek White, which is leading us to 40% ownership of Peyton Pritchard, 20% ownership for Jaylen Brown, 10 for Jordan Walsh, and then it kind of tapers off. I think we have a lot of discussion to have here for this Boston team, but let's ignore the Queta piece for a second. How do you feel about Peyton Pritchard here with no White?
Yeah, so I think Peyton Pritchard looks like one of the better point per hour plays here in the mid-range. 7K does feel underpriced without Derek White. So taking a look at rates for Peyton Pritchard with Derek White off the court, he's second on the team in usage, about a 25% usage rate. We also see a nice increase in assist percentage. He's got about a 29% assist percentage with White off the court. So the rates increase for Pritchard. You're most likely going to get Shireman in the starting lineup. So you have like three low usage players in Shireman, Hauser, Queta, alongside Pritchard and Brown. So you're just going to get a ton of offense run through those two. So even though this is a relatively low total game against Brooklyn, yeah, Peyton Pritchard protect about 40% ownership. I think it makes all the sense. So he looks great here.
Yeah, he gets a big bump here. No issues with that ownership whatsoever. Happy to be there. Let's just continue this conversation the same way we've had it for these previous games. How does Jaylen Brown rank to you in relationship to Jalen Johnson, Alperen Şengün, Kevin Durant, and the rest of those dudes?
Yes. So of these spend ups that we talked about, I think right now Jaylen Brown would be my preferred option. So he's projecting for about 25% ownership. Price point is like not amazing at 10K. The key here is he's small forward eligible, which is huge. Yeah. And he also sees a really nice usage bump here without Derek White. So he's sitting at about a 40% usage rate with Derek White off the court. Also about a 27.5% assist percentage. So about 1.51 fantasy points per minute for Jaylen Brown. So all that being said, yeah, I think he looks like one of the better spend ups on the slate. And yeah, so of the, Cade, Şengün, Jalen Johnson, all those spend ups right now that we've talked about, I think Brown's my preferred option there.
Okay. Then we get to the rest of Boston in a situation where there's not a ton of ownership. Before we get to the Queta/center situation, Baylor Shireman, 3,300, shooting guard, small forward eligible, 2.5% owned. We're expecting him to get the start in the spot. The positionality is great. The per minute rates for Baylor Shireman, not so much. We've got him at 0.62 fantasy points per minute. This does feel like a situation where I want a little bit more of him as a value option, because I think while we have him in for 23 minutes in a matchup today like this against Brooklyn, I think that number can be significantly higher in a couple different game scripts. You need them, sort of, but I'm more interested than 2%.
Yeah, it's one of those where I'm like, it kind of depends on what happens with Queta and Lando, what we'll talk about. So but I think you can make the argument for him. Like I said, he's got nice positionality with guard forward. He's really, really cheap and expected to start. So I'm not going to rule him out. The bad thing is he's just awful point per minute. So, but you can see some decent games from him every once in a while. Like 3 games ago, he went for about 30 fantasy points. That game wasn't a blowout. But yeah, so he's at least, I think, playable. The rest of Boston, I think Anthony Simons at 5K is somewhat interesting, projecting for about 5% ownership. So he's going to take on a bigger role without Derek White, a little bit more usage, a little bit more ball handling. I think we'll see a minutes increase as well. So I think he's kind of an interesting contrarian play there in the mid-range. And Hauser, kind of the last guy to talk about, 5,200. I think is a fine last guy in. Minutes pretty consistent around 30. And then Keita, questionable, I think is pretty big news here. As you mentioned, that was a midday downgrade. So I would say slightly lean out. It is just an illness. So we may or may not get this news before lock with Keita. If he does not play, my guess is that Luka Garza starts, but they could do a lot of different things. They could try to like small ball and go like Jordan Walsh. They could do something weird like dusting off, I don't know, like Xavier Tillman or Mario Williams. Like I think there's a lot on the table.
I would not be surprised at all if Tillman is the starter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we saw Tillman get a start randomly, like I think it was like about a month ago. So I think like that's certainly on the table. So while I think the most likely candidate would be Garza, I think they could go a few different directions. And then Garza himself, I think is still playable even if Keita plays, projecting for about 5% ownership. Probably going to see around 20 minutes, but obviously would like him a lot more if we do get Keita rolled out.
Interesting scenario here for some of these Boston guys, but that Keita news will loom large. Not that Tillman's a fun dude, but he's the flat 3K. And that will certainly make a $4,100 Luka Garza look better by default, whether he starts, whether he doesn't. There's just more opportunity for minutes in that situation. Are there any opportunities for guys that aren't Michael Porter Jr. to get into your lineup from the Nets?
Gosh, I hate this team for DFS. I don't think so. No, I mean, the highest owned guy behind Michael Porter Jr. is Cam Thomas and Clowney at 1%. So yeah, I think it is pretty hard to get to anyone else for Brooklyn. We saw them get absolutely destroyed last game, so obviously not going to read too much into that rotation, but price has come down a little bit on Michael Porter Jr. Again, to 8,200. The last competitive game, we did see him play 37 minutes, which was good to see. So I think he's viable here in tournaments. Don't have a ton else to add there, but the rest of the team, I mean, they're just consistently running a 10-man rotation. Minutes are down on Claxton, even competitive games. I just don't think I can do anyone else on Brooklyn.
I don't see it. Like if I'm ever clicking on anybody, it's Cam Thomas, just because it could be a day where he's like, you know what? I'm going to get 30 shots up in 20 minutes. And that could just be that case. I don't expect to have him. I don't want to have him. If I'm getting something from Brooklyn, realistically, the only thing that I see as a piece that I want is Michael Porter Jr. I hope they trade him. I want to like completely forget that this team exists in the next 3 weeks. They are going to be like, it's going to be so awful for them, Utah, Washington, the Pels. March is going to be just a mess of these idiots at the bottom of the barrel. Is there anything else we should be touching on here for Boston? I do think Jordan Walsh is probably a little underrepresented at 3,200. 5% owned. Whether it's him, whether it's Shireman, whether it's Anthony Simons, those 3 dudes all being like 5% owned, like in the aggregate, I want more than that of those dudes because there's just a lot to go around with Derek White not being there. No confidence in any of it. But somebody's going to get way more minutes than we expected. Yeah,
100% agree there. And yeah, Boston just usually kind of rides the hot hand with those like secondary guys. So it's always tough to like project kind of the more back end of the rotation for Boston.
Well, let's take a look at Boston and Brooklyn on the FanDuel side. Pretty similar, but even more extreme ownership to Peyton Pritchard. 6,500. Point guard, shooting guard eligible. 60% owned, and no disagreement from our optimal rates. That's around 54. Yes, that's some negative leverage. It's still one of the most optimal things you're going to get. Jaylen Brown, just shy of 30% owned on FanDuel. Sam Hauser, Michael Porter Jr., Neemias Queta, all in the 10 to 15% range. That could open up a little bit more depending on that Queta news. Luka Garza at 4K will certainly be a little bit more interesting on FanDuel if we happen to lose Queta here. Oh, this Boston Celtics team. Very weird. They're the team I'm probably most interested in over the next 3 weeks to see if they do anything crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of hope they do something.
I want them to take a big swing because I think it's not crazy at all for them to represent the East. You get Jason Tatum back into the rotation in some way. You go out there and find like one additional center. I posited turning Anthony Simons into Draymond, but I don't know how well that's going to go.
I mean, I would like that for Boston a lot. But
they make essentially the same amount of money.
Do you think... I think the Warriors should just sell off here, but what do you think they're going to do?
Whatever Steph says.
Yeah.
Like, you can't trade Steph unless Steph's like, yo, I want to go to win somewhere. Mm-hmm. Like, if Steph's like, I stay, then it's like, hey, we're going to just make this fun around Steph because he's worth, $1 billion to the value of the Warriors franchise. Like, if you trade him, it's got to be because he wants to go. I don't know where he lands on that. I'm sure he doesn't want to do anything in season, but I would not be surprised if like they have some conversations this summer and he's like, yeah, I don't see it. I don't see the path. I want to go and try to get one more, but it's up to him. Like when it comes to Draymond, like I would ship him out immediately if I could for the Warriors if they thought they can get something.
Yeah. Okay. That's a fair take.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't think they would ever trade Steph without finding out if he was cool with it first.
Yeah, I agree with how since Steph's been there his entire career. So
yeah, like that's as long as he's there, people will keep coming to those games and spending money and XYZ. But so they got to think about it from that regard. Speaking of spending money, you want to spend slightly less of it to play a UFC slate this weekend? Well, you can do that. The promo code is 324. Those are numbers, 324. Link in the description, 30% off any MMA DFS package. It's the new year. UFC typically takes off a couple weeks, the end of the previous year into the new one, and we're getting it kicked off with a big event. And there are no pay-per-views anymore. This is on Paramount Plus. You don't got to spend $70 to watch this. Extra special cheap nowadays. And MMA DFS is sick to sweat because you just got two guys in there. And if you have that guy in your lineup, all you're looking for that dude to do is absolutely eviscerate him and erase him from the planet, preferably in the first 90 seconds so you get a bonus. It's really fun. It's a great sweat. We've got projections, ownership, and sim tools for you to help you get set up. Some really nice contests for the UFC this weekend as well. So if you want to sign up, 30% off any MMA package. Promo code 324. You an MMA guy?
No, I'm not.
Lame.
I had some friends that were into it. So I watched it for like a little bit a few years ago, but nah, it's not really my thing.
Fair. It's such a fun sweat. Just knowing you got something and you got two people just having a fist fight for money.
Aren't there
so fun, dude?
Do like fights get canceled and stuff? Does that happen? Because I feel
all the time. All the time.
I feel like that's like a fun sweat too. Of like you got to avoid that.
And like, those situations are either money printing devices if you dodged it, or you can just close your shit immediately because it's like, oh, okay, I can't win. I'm done. I'm cooked. Yeah, there's something pretty special about being on a vacation, your wife being asleep, it's midnight, you're watching the main event fight on your phone, and if the girl wins, you win like $57,000, and if she loses, you lose money on the slate. And then I watched her get knocked out, so I lost all that money in silence and darkness of a hotel room. Can't beat MMA. It's the best. The Kings are not the best. They played today. They're taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Kings are 12.5-point dogs, 233 total. For Sacramento, it's still no Keegan Murray. Otherwise, they're at full strength. For Cleveland, no Darius Garland, no Sam Merrill. No real ownership coming into this game. It's a theme right now. 20% to Donovan Mitchell, 10 to Evan Mobley. Everybody else in this game, single digits or lower. I will say this. I expected this number to climb a little bit more. I like Donovan Mitchell, even at 9,700, 23% owned. The minutes have been amazing, and the Kings stink.
Yeah, agree there. I guess I'll quickly touch on the Kings, and then we can get to the Cavs. I do agree with you. I think the Cavs are going under-owned right now. For Sacramento, Sabonis has been coming off the bench. You would think he's going to return to the starting lineup here soon, but in the 3 games back off the bench, 21, 20, and 17 minutes. So can't go there yet. If we get confirmation that he's starting, I think you probably project him for 25 minutes or so. I still don't think it would be enough, though, to get to Sabonis. But keep an eye on that starting lineup. The rest of the team, it's just the price points are tough to get to. DeRozan, 7K, Westbrook, 79, Zach LaVine, 6,700. I think if I had to place someone, maybe I would take a shot on unowned Malik Monk at 4,700. So we've seen him rotate. He's been pretty consistently in the rotation, even with Kings being close to full health. So last game, he played 26 minutes, was having a pretty good game. I played him at low ownership that slate. It was pretty tilted they didn't close, but I think he's the least in consideration here in large field tournaments just because we know that ceiling is there. Dennis Schroeder, I think, is somewhat similar to Malik Monk, but I just think the ceiling's a little bit higher on Monk, so I'd rather take the shot there. And then, not going to get to anyone else. Reyno and Achua are priced up too much with Sabonis back. So I think probably Sacramento is the worst team on this slate. I would say Brooklyn, second worst. Sacramento, probably the worst team to get to.
Yeah, if Michael Porter Jr. just evaporated today, it would probably be Brooklyn, but they've got that one-off, whereas the highest owned guy on DraftKings today for the Kings is 2.9% DeMar DeRozan.
Yep.
Yikes. Now, Cleveland is very different, and I agree. I think these guys are a bit under-owned. Hit me with your thoughts.
Yeah, so we'll start with Donovan Mitchell. I like him a good amount here as a spend up. So the last 3 games without Darius Garland, he's averaging 60 passes made, 17 potential assists. Again, we've basically seen Lonzo Ball DNP. So there's not really another true ball handler out there, at least in the starting lineup. You will see Craig Porter Jr. Play probably around 20 minutes off the bench. But yeah, the potential assists are way up in Donovan Mitchell. And you mentioned the minutes too. He is playing high 30s minutes pretty consistently now. Last 3 games. So against Charlotte, Donovan Mitchell played 37.5 minutes. Against Oklahoma City, he played 35 minutes, lost the last 3 minutes due to the blowout. And then against the 76ers, he played 39 minutes. So minutes are way up on Mitchell. Obviously, this is a good matchup, and the ceiling is very high in him. So, yeah, I like him as a spend up here for sure. Ownership reasonable there. Evan Mobley at 15% ownership, I think, is firmly in play as well. Minutes for him been pretty solid in competitive games, usually in the mid-30s. We saw 36 minutes from him last game against Charlotte, 36 against Philly, 31 in the blowout there against Oklahoma City. So we've also seen the minutes tick up a bit on Evan Mobley, and so I think he's definitely viable. Jarrett Allen's minutes have ticked up as well. Last game, I want to say he played, it was 35 minutes. So do love targeting bigs against this Kings front court. Jalen Tyson, I think, is viable as well, projecting for about 10% ownership. He's got the guard forward eligibility. He should be around 30 minutes. And we've seen some ceiling games from him, even when this team has a lot of their main guys in. We saw the big game from him 3 games ago. So I don't love the price point, but I think he's still viable here because of the position. Dean Wade, I think, is a little bit tougher to make the argument for at 3,600 just because not the best point per minute player. And I think there's just other value I'd rather get to. And then probably not going to get to anyone else. I will say, if Craig Porter Jr. was a bit cheaper, I think I would have more interest in him because if this game gets out of hand, he would close the blowout. But he's up to 4,900, so I think it is pretty tough to get to him on this slate.
I will put Dean Wade in the same bucket that I have Baylor Shireman right now as guy I'd be willing to have as a value option at no ownership to get away from one of the other guys that are getting a bunch of ownership. But it's not exciting. It's Dean Wade. The lack of ownership is the exciting part. I like the Craig Porter shout. I'm with you. That 4,900 is it's snuck up a little bit too high to feel great about it. But I think Donovan, the way that Donovan Mitchell has been out on the floor and trying to drag these guys to everything lately, whether it's him or Mobley, I'm expecting one of them to really go bananas here and bludgeon this garbage Sacramento Kings team. At least they're going to free Keon Ellis in the next 2 or 3 weeks. We'll get to see him playing for a team that's good. He'll be happy.
Yeah, finally. It's wild that he's just not seeing rotation minutes for Sacramento. So
we're gonna see him get traded to a better team and be in their rotation, and that should set alarm bells off to everybody, being like, "Huh, I wonder why he didn't play for the Kings." Yep. That should explain everything to everybody. Let's pull this one up on FanDuel. This is one that I'm assuming looks quite a bit different, but I'm also guessing. On the FanDuel side for this game, 40% ownership coming into a $9,400 Donovan Mitchell. 30 for an $8,500 Evan Mobley. 20 more for Jalen Tyson and Jared Allen. Allen has the power forward eligibility on FanDuel. Then we fall off to minimal ownership everywhere. But the next highest owned guy is actually Naquan Tomlin. So that should stand out to you guys. Naquan Tomlin, more owned on FanDuel than anybody on the Kings. Incredible. Oh, just to circle back to Holden's question, would you pay up for Pritchard, down for Simons and or Hauser, or want to go to Jaylen Brown here?
Yeah, so it kind of depends on the rest of your lineup. I think optimal build-wise, trying to get to one of Pritchard or Jaylen Brown makes some sense. Simons and Hauser, I think, are guys that you can utilize as a way to get different. So if you have a pretty chalky lineup, then I'm a little bit more inclined to get to Simons or Hauser. But assuming you're already playing one or two contrarian pieces, then I think it makes sense to get to one of the main guys, either Pritchard or Brown. I think it's a little bit easier to get to Pritchard because of the price point, but both those guys I expect to be pretty popular. So
yeah, I lean towards Pritchard there, especially in the 888. He's going to be massively owned in that contest in comparison to others. I think I'd rather get different elsewhere just because of that matchup and what we're looking at. I don't think Hauser would not be in the equation for me for that contest. It would be one of Pritchard, Simons, or Jalen for sure.
Yep.
All righty. We are through the 7:30 games. We have 2 8 p.m. games remaining. So before we get to those 8 p.m. games, because this is where the news lies, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Let's run that like number up for our Live Before Lock crew coming up next. Greg Ehrenberg, Chris Spags. Memphis Grizzlies, 5.5 point favorites at home against the New Orleans Pelicans, 240 total. This is 20 points higher than 2 of these games. We have Jose Alvarado still out for the Pels. Herb Jones, questionable. Not even going to ask you if you think he plays. Who the hell knows? This dude is perpetually questionable or just simply not playing. For Memphis, no Ja Morant, no Santi Aldama, and a Q tag on Jock Landale for personal reasons. So we got a ton of ownership here. 50+% to Cam Spencer, 45 Cedric Coward, 35 Triple J, 30 to a questionable Jock Landale, 25 more for Vince Williams, 10 to 15 on KCP, Conchar, Wells, Jackson. Everybody from the Grizzlies are getting it because they don't have that many dudes available here. Let's just start at the top. Let's work our way through Memphis. Let's ignore Landale for a second. I'm going to assume you have no qualms whatsoever with this Cam Spencer ownership.
Yeah, no, I think he's probably the best play in the mid-range on this slate. Getting about 60% ownership. It should start at the point guard position, has a 31% assist percentage with Ja Morant off the court. I think in a competitive game for Cam Spencer, you're probably expecting close to 30 minutes. So he's definitely underpriced, and you factor in it's a great matchup. So one of the best plays on the slate. Yeah,
I don't have anything to add there. There's no Ja. There's no He's just going to be out there, and he's a 1.1 fantasy point per minute guy against the Pelicans. Coward is a guy that continually scares the shit out of me, but again, great matchup, shooting guard only, 5,400, 45% owned. I don't have anything negative to say. I just wish this dude would play like 31 minutes one day when I roster him. They just are not doing that. But even still, he is an incredible value.
Yeah, that's really the issue here with Coward is still the minutes. It just seems like in competitive games, he's kind of capped at like 26, 27 minutes. So like last game, competitive game, played 26 minutes. Decent point per minute for sure. But I think right now, maybe going a little bit over-owned if about half the field's going to roster him. But still, no issue getting to Coward. I just think the ownership is a little bit high. And then you got Jaren Jackson around 30% ownership. So he's always a scary one too because of the relatively wide range of outcomes. I would like Jaren more for sure if there's no Landale. But the ceiling is definitely there for Jaren Jackson, but still the floor is there as well. So what's your thoughts on, I guess, like Jaren compared to Coward?
I'm probably the wrong guy to ask on Jaren. I've had issues rostering that dude since his rookie year. But I mean, he looks fantastic here. I get some. I just always assume that he's going to be the guy that I remember him being over the past couple of years. You know, when I see a $7,400 matchup here against the Pels without Ja, with no Aldama, with the other 10 point guards that are all out, I would have more confidence in Jaren Jackson than I would in Cedric Coward. I don't think that that's true based on what we've seen this year, but that's how it is in my brain.
I could also see this being a game where we see like 35 minutes from Jaren, especially if there's no Landale, because they don't really have many bodies in the front court. So like Coward, I don't really see that minute ceiling, but Jaren, I could very easily see him play like 35 plus.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to do that if Landale's gone, then it's clearly to me Triple J ahead of Coward. Now, again, Cedric Coward is 40% optimal. He is a good play regardless. We're just talking about like maybe you want to have 30 in a GPP instead of 50, but relatively speaking, he's still great. What do you want to do with the rest of these Memphis guys? And let's go with the assumption that Landale is in for now, because we've got real ownership coming into Vince Williams, KCP, Conchar, Wells, GG Jackson. Do any of those guys stand out to you?
Yeah, so looking at the rest of Memphis, $4,400 for Vince Williams, I think is probably the next guy I would look to. So agree with the ownership there, about 25%. He's going to be kind of your secondary playmaker behind Cam Spencer. I do think we could see that minutes increase as well. And if he's playing really well, like I think he could take some minutes away from Cam Spencer. We saw that a bit earlier in the year. It was kind of a push and pull with Spencer versus Vince Williams, like whoever's playing better kind of closed. So I think that's at least in the range of outcomes here. Vince Williams playing really well, maybe taking a few minutes from Spencer. So would have liked him more if he's small forward eligible, but still I think a pretty good point per dollar value. Conchar got the start last game. He's 3,500. If he starts again, I think he's viable. Probably would project him for like around 20 minutes and does have small forward eligibility too. So that is a positive. I'm curious if they go there or if they go to Landale if he plays. So we'll see on that. Jalen Wells minutes have been down. He's 4,900, but I still think he's viable, projecting for about 10% ownership. KCP projecting about 10% ownership as well. I don't really have any super strong takes there. Probably going to see around 20 minutes. GG Jackson, I think, is viable as well. Like a lot of these value plays for Memphis just look very similar to me. GG, Wells, Conchar, KCP. They're like all, I know they're not, necessarily all the same price, but they're all just like, to me, look like the same play.
But if we lose Jock Landale, is GG Jackson the guy that immediately takes the biggest bump for you?
Yeah, so if Landale is out, I do think that GG is going to see a nice bump in minutes. So I think he would look like a pretty good value play for sure. I think that Vince Williams would probably look a little bit better as well. Conchar, I think, would start again then in that scenario. But yeah, of the like kind of gross value here for Memphis, I think GG would take like that biggest minutes bump if there's no Landale.
I think so too. How do you want to handle Landale? We're talking about a guy at 30% owned at this moment. Pretty popular play up in the air at this point. Do you want to be there if he's in?
Yeah, so I like Lando if he plays. We saw him. He did not get the start. However, he played similar minutes to what he would have if he would have started. Like, he played 28 minutes off the bench. So whether he starts or not, if he's in, I think he's a pretty solid point per dollar play here. 5,500 over a fantasy point per minute player, projecting about 25% ownership. Obviously, would like him a little bit more if he starts, but even not, like even if he doesn't, I still think he's a pretty good play here in the mid range. So yeah, I like Landale. Again, it's personal reasons. I couldn't really find anything just looking it up before. But if he gets rolled out, as I said, it's just going to open up a little bit more here for Memphis with the value plays. And then again, I think Jaren's minutes go up as well.
So we obviously just spent a decent chunk of time talking about the Memphis Grizzlies and how every single dude on the team is pulling somewhat significant ownership. We've got 25% ownership coming into Trey Murphy on the opposite side, about 10 for Zion, everybody else in single digits. If we get Herb Jones out, I don't think any of this is going to move super dramatically since we're pretty used to it. All these guys' salaries are already up. I'll never have an issue taking Trey Murphy because he's going to be out there forever. And if I'm going to have all this Memphis exposure, it makes sense. Similarly, like, yeah, Zion's got a decent enough ceiling that I'm cool with it. Do you want anything here for the Pels that aren't those two dudes?
Probably not. No. Yeah, Murphy going to play big minutes, as you mentioned. 7,800 is a reasonable price point. 20% ownership, I think it's fine. So I don't really have any super strong takes there. Zion, that one really tilted me last slate. I thought he wasn't going to play. Ended up playing, but like clearly wasn't healthy and then left early in the game. I ended up playing him for DFS. I was just really tilted because originally I was like had a nice build with him playing for him to be out. So, but I think, a couple days off, probably back to full health here for Zion. And we've seen him in competitive games before last game, average like low 30s minutes. So I think he's kind of interesting as a contrarian spend up around 10%. Herb Jones, if he plays, I think if he starts, is playable. We did see, so he was out for a while and then he came back and played 35 minutes, re-injured himself, and then hasn't played since. So I don't think you would see huge minutes from Herb Jones, but if he starts, you never know. We did see 35 from him that last time out. The rest of the team, nah, I don't think so. Maybe I would take a shot like Jordan Poole at 4,500 in tournaments at about 5% ownership, but nothing else really standing out there.
Herb Jones missed 7 games, came back, played 35 minutes, and has now missed 8 straight since then.
Yep. It's like, maybe you shouldn't have played him 35 minutes in his first game back.
Yeah. On a team going nowhere, buried at the ass end of everything that has absolutely no incentive to win because you don't even have your own pick. It's malpractice in New Orleans. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Let's close it out. Final game on the DraftKings side. Don't forget, Live Before Lock coming up next after this one. Indiana Pacers in Oklahoma City. 15.5 point dogs taking on the Thunder for Indiana. We are waiting on a Q tag for Quentin Jackson. Otherwise, everything that we've been used to. For OKC, though, Aaron Wiggins out. AJ Mitchell out. Alex Caruso out. Isaiah Hartenstein out. Jalen Williams without the Y out. Jalen Williams with the Y is in for today. And now we got a boatload of ownership coming into Oklahoma City because they get to face the Pacers. 45% ownership coming into Jalen Williams with a Y at 3,700. Projected for 22 minutes right now. Could easily play more. 30 minutes coming in, or 30% ownership coming into Kenrich Williams, 3,900 power forward center, and SGA, who is your most owned pay up option. 20% ownership to Isaiah Joe, 10 to Cason Wallace, 10 to Chet Holmgren. Let's start with the value plays. J-Dub, or Jalen Williams with a Y, Kenrich Williams. I like them both. I think they look great, sub 4K. No notes.
Yeah. I think Oklahoma City, one of your better teams to get to. Jalen Williams probably is going to start here at 3,700. Minutes, I think, are a little bit tough to project. He started the last game he played and then got injured right away. So he played like the first 8 minutes and then never came back. But pretty good point per minute player. It's a match against the Pacers, so totally understand why he's getting ownership. Kenrich Williams should play decent amount off the bench, 30% ownership. I think that makes sense. So he looks really, really good. The other value plays, Isaiah Joe had a bad game last time out, but really you're going to see a nice minutes bump for him, projection about 25 minutes. We know that ceiling is there if you can make his shots. The group of like Case and Wallace and Lou Dort, I think, are viable contrarian options. Not getting a ton of ownership, but they're cheap enough where they are in play here. Brendan Carlson, 3,500. I think we'll see rotation minutes as well. In a large field tournament, I think you can make the argument for him. I expect him and Jalen to play a good chunk of the 7 minutes. I do think you could get some small ball with Kenrich Williams there. So all in all, I think this is one of the better teams to get to for value for sure. And then SGA, 28% ownership. I think looks like one of the better spot ups in the slate. Really just comes down to, do you think this game stays competitive? Because he sees a really nice assist bump without J-Dub and without AJ Mitchell. About a 25% assist percentage on the year, goes up to about 38% with those two off the court. So it makes sense. Like, he's really the only true ball handler healthy on this team. So love the upside there on SJ if the game does stay competitive. So all in all, yeah, this is definitely one of your better teams to get to.
The opposite side of this game, though, does exist. The Indiana Pacers. It barely exists, though. Aaron Nesmith, 7% owned. Everybody else 2 or below. Do you want to bring anything along for the ride for the Pacers if you're going to have a bunch of the Thunder?
So there's one interesting note here for the Pacers. Jay Huff has been starting at the 5. I saw it shoot around, though. He did not have a starter jersey on. So I think this could mean a few different things for the Pacers. I think they could go to like one of the backup centers, maybe Isaiah Jackson, or they could try small ball with Siakam at the 5, which we did see them do that one game. So there's a lot of different ways this could go, but just keep an eye on the Pacers starting lineup. Right now, I am not expecting Jay Huff to start. So again, you could get one of those backup centers. You could get, I don't know, one of these like Jarris Walker, Ben Shepherd moved in there, and then they go small. So keep an eye on that. But yeah, ownership, Nesmith, 7%. I think really just because of the position. In a competitive game, you're probably going to see low 30s minutes from him. Andrew Nembhard, 6,800, projection about 3% ownership. We have seen the minutes tick up for Nembhard in competitive games. So he played 33 minutes last game and lost the last 4 minutes due to a blowout. So if you think this game does stay competitive, I'm okay like running it back with Nembhard, because you would think like one of him, Nesmith, Siakam's going to have a big game if this game does stay competitive. I think Nembhard probably would be my favorite of that group. And then, yeah, minutes are down to McConnell. So I think it's tough to feel great about him, but he is only projecting for 1% ownership. And we know McConnell is a good point per minute player. Every once in a while, you do get, him overlapping a decent amount with Nembhard. So at that ownership, I'm okay taking a shot. And then, yeah, just keep an eye on the starting lineup. I don't think it's going to be Huff, but I don't know who that fifth starter will be.
What a slate, folks. What a slate. So final question for you here before we send this one over to the Live Before Lock crew. We talked a lot about payups. So my question to you is going to be this. Who is your favorite payup that isn't Shai Gilgeous-Alexander?
Okay, so let me filter this by salary. Favorite spend up, not Shai. I think for me, it's close with Jaylen Brown and Mitchell. So I know I'm not getting like too far off the board. I know these are the 3 chalk spend ups, but yeah, for me, it's either Mitchell or Brown, and it's really close.
It would be Donovan Mitchell for me, but I think we're on the same page. I think where the ownership is today on some of these payups makes more sense to me than it has on some of the days earlier this week. I don't see as much utility in some of the lower owned options in comparison to what I saw previously. So I think we're seeing this the same way. TK, tell the people where to find you.
Yeah, you guys can find me over on Tails. So I have DFS content. I do streams every single day before lock. So I'll be live in about 30 minutes. Talk through the slate, some game theory, and then player props as well. If you guys are interested, sportsbook, prize picks, underdog. So that's all over on Tails.
There it is, folks. Deeper dive for Friday in the books. Live Before Lock is here. Greg Ehrenberg, Chris Spags, what's going on, boys?
Yeah, we've got interesting slate for today. Kind of as per usual, we got some key players on the injury report, but it's also players that we haven't really seen on the injury report at other points in times this year. Jock Landale, He's questionable to play. We've got Keita questionable. So some potentially new situations for Spags and I to break down over the course of the show here. So Josh, DK, have a good weekend, guys. And for everybody else, it is time for Live Before Locks. If you haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Spags, are you ready for some snowy conditions this weekend?
No, because if we lose daycare days on Monday and Tuesday, which are the rumors right now, I will not be a happy man. But the good news, I'll get to wake up bright and early tomorrow for Luca's first basketball practice on a Saturday. So that'll be a good time before we're trapped. But I have one question for you, Greg. Where are we with the Derek White thing? Because he's still out of the data. This injury report has not had him on all day. I know some WEI reporter put it out yesterday, but like he's playing, right? Like he's not. Usually guys are on the injury report if they're not going to play.
So, I mean, I'm assuming he's out. What was the question again?
He's not, but he hasn't been on the injury report all day, has he? Has it updated at some point in the last 2 hours?
So the NBA injury report's a little bit fugazi. Let me pull up the actual. I've just been assuming he's out. I know we have him out in our projections as well. It is true though that he was not listed on the injury report. Now
he's still not.
Yeah. Now with that said, it is also not an injury he's dealing with. Not that that means he shouldn't be listed or anything like that. But I tend to think this is just a clerical error. I think he's out. We have him out in our projections. He was reported to be out. So unless something changes, like I am currently assuming that there is no Derek White playing today.
Okay. I appreciate you explaining that. I'm still confused by it because there's really, again, and people I think are like, oh yeah, the Boston radio guy reported it. Like, I'm making a motion here that indicates how I feel about that. Not any like actual reporting here. It's not Shams Charania going, we're getting a Derek White rest day. So I just would like to see it on the injury report. And guys who've been out for rest have still been on the injury report before. So again, it's odd to me that he's not listed at all anywhere, and we're just going off of like reporters who have no relevance at all to like what we're doing on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. So to be clear, he should be, assuming he actually is out, he should be listed on the injury report for today. But yeah, I saw that he was out yesterday. We have him out in our projections. So by the way, actually, no, the Boston Celtics tweeted. Now that I'm looking, the Boston Celtics tweeted that he's out.
Then why is he not on the injury report? This is the thing, like, again, you're still on it.
Yeah, so he should absolutely be on the injury report. I am very confident he is not playing today. Here's the Boston Celtics official Twitter account. It does not excuse him not being on the injury report. It's just to kind of help clear up for the people that Derek White is not going to be playing today. But here it is from the Boston Celtics injury official Twitter account.
The chat too keeps doing the thing that Josh loves. We're like, DraftKings has him out, FanDuel has him out, which, guys, I know Josh beats the drum of it. I'm not stealing his bit, but like, you can't trust your gambling site for your news about who's going to be in and out. It's not really advantageous for them to be, they try to do the best they can, but like use other sources like the NBA injury report generally.
Yeah. But this is definitely the most. I just threw it into the YouTube chat. This is the best source you could have, even better than the injury report, is probably just the Boston Celtics official Twitter account. Which, if you see that link I threw into chat, Spags, they do have him listed as out from the Celtics Twitter.
I can't actually pull up the link without just pulling the chat up on screen and doing nothing.
Okay.
So but I'll take your word for it. I know you wouldn't lie to me. I just find this to be particularly odd because like this week I put in a process where I could like strip guys out, do the injury report like automatically, and like it's working. I'm like, why is Derek White not coming out? It's because he's not been on the report all day. So
this might also help clear this up for you, Spags. Here's from NY Stiegel. FanDuel says he's out. Does that move you?
Hold on. Wait, Roto World says it too? Oh,
yeah.
Well, shit. I guess, damn, my bad, guys. I know. Now that Greg has said it, Greg Sharani has reported it. I'm good. I just wanted to say these are the kind of things you have to pay attention to. This is an important part of the NBA process every day. And then Greg and I, Josh as well, DK, we all pay attention obsessively every day. And it's odd to me that this has gone down this way.
And Emac also has thrown in his 2 cents with an unfortunate typo, but these things happen when you're an older gentleman. I don't know if you can see what is up on screen right there. But yeah, Emac meant to say that you are tripping, which, he's just trying to be cool, fitting with the young kids, but he unfortunately added an extra S to the front there. So yeah,
if I want to strip guys, that's my right as an American.
Anyway, yeah. So no Derek White, but no, it's good that you brought that up because I've just been, under the assumption that he's been out all day. I didn't even notice that on the injury report he wasn't listed. But yeah, officially out. So I also want to ask you, because we've got a couple of other key guys who are questionable on the injury report, most notably Jock Landau, Neemias Queta, who also is on the Boston Celtics. Not can we trust anything on the Celtics injury report, though. Do you have any kind of real leans on Landale or Queta for tonight?
I mean, both were midday downgrades, which historically does mean we're assuming that they don't play. That has not been, I feel like, as good of an adage this year in a lot of situations. So I don't want to, assume that. And they do stay, in on the data for that reason when they are a Q tag guy. So for me right now, I'm certainly hoping Landale plays in particular, because I think that he's one of those guys that seems like one of the better value options on the slate. He's put up just shy of 1.2 fan sports minute when you take off Aldama, you take off Morant, when you take off Edey. And it's not a perfect sample size, but it's still like about 600 possessions for those guys being off the court and him playing well. So if he plays, I definitely want to get there. But if he's out, certainly you'll have more opportunity to go around. If Queta's out, I guess you're going to get Luka Garza getting meaningful amounts of run. And I mean, might be another appealing option with him being a guy under 1 fantasy point per minute. But yeah, my instinct would be that they're out because they get downgraded. But I just don't think that's been hitting as much this year as it usually does.
Yeah, it's funny. We had one the other day where it was Cade was downgraded with an illness and Zion was downgraded with an illness. Cade gets ruled out. Zion ends up playing, which was pretty unexpected to me until we found out he was warming up for the game. But then he plays like 12 minutes and wasn't able to finish the game, just went to the locker room and never resurfaced. So even some of these guys who have been downgrades during the day, questionable illness that end up playing, sometimes there's still been some, little bits of fuckery that go on, like that situation that we had with Zion the other day. Now, I do feel, I shouldn't say like super confident, but I do lean towards Queta being out. The Lando one's really hard because it's a personal issue, which is, it's like so far outside of, and we also don't know what it like, is it the birth of a kid? Is it a family issue or whatever? So that one I have absolutely no clue on, but I am going to lean towards Queta being out and Luka Garza starting, with him being $4,100 on DraftKings. Certainly brings him into play. Doesn't make him like the best value on the slate or anything like that, but it makes him look pretty solid. In the event that you get a Luka Garza start, he's probably going to be projected somewhere around mid-20s fantasy points, and that makes him a good value option on the slate. I doubt that we see him be projected for like 30 minutes or anything like that, but if you just get like a 22 to 26 minute projection for Luka Garza as a fantasy point per minute guy, he's the one who I think would most stand out as a value option.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, I think I'd still question a little bit if you need him on the slate all the way. Like, I think he might get a lot of ownership, and then it becomes a question of like, is he a must-have relative to that ownership? But I think he's definitely, it'd be nice to have another chess piece in here as opposed to the OKC value and the other Q tag guy that we talked about, Jock Landale.
And let's look at the most recent. Yeah, we just got an ownership update. So let's look at the most popular plays on the slate. And then we'll start to get to some of your guys' questions after we give this kind of like overview. 6-game slate for today. And FanDuel has more commonly been excluding the late games from the slate, as DraftKings has been doing all year. So none of the late games for the DraftKings or the FanDuel main, just the games through 8 p.m. Eastern time. And if you look at the ownership that we have right here on DraftKings, Spags, a few players that are really popular. You've got Cam Spencer, 52% owned. You've got Jalen Williams with a Y, 48% owned, 45% ownership to Peyton Pritchard. That's because Derek White not playing today. And then you've got Cedric Howard projected for 44.5% ownership. Of these 4 guys, do you find the ownership to be problematic on any of them?
No, I mean, not particularly. I think for Jalen with a Y, I think is my biggest question mark on the slate, just because I'm curious about what his minutes can be, given the fact that he's been banged up generally lately. And, and you do have guys you can go to like Brandon Carlson, I think can play minutes. Kenrich Williams in particular, I think can play minutes as well and be productive out there, especially, with them having a lot of vacancy in that second unit with no Caruso, no AJ Mitchell, Wiggins, for as much as he plays that group as well. I think a guy like Kenrich to me can be more involved. But I think there is sort of a push-pull dynamic there, where in the past, Kenrich gets the most minutes when you have Jalen Williams out, when you have Hartenstein out. Now you have half of that, but you have guys that you can go to that are not him, including Jalen. So I think that's one of the big questions for me. I like getting Kenrich a little bit more than the field and getting Jalen also, close to the field here. But I think just looking through it, like OKC can go a lot of ways that are not Jalen Williams. I love his upside because he really can put up a triple-double if you give him enough minutes. But I think out of the other guys, like, they're all kind of locked into minutes and role. I don't think Jalen Williams is.
So with what you said initially, I do agree. I don't think any of these guys are bad chalk. I get all of them in at least 50% of lineups. Now, none of them are showing up to like 100% of lineups or anything like that, but the ownership all seems to be pretty warranted. What I think is most interesting to talk about, which you also hit on there, is who are the pivot options or the potential leverage plays. And considering that you've got, a couple of cheaper guys from Memphis here, then you've also got Jalen Williams from OKC. We know how deep OKC goes with the bench. I do think there's a handful of leverage options / pivot plays that we could be going to. You'd mentioned Kenrich Williams. I'm going to look more on the Memphis side of the game, and there's a couple of guys who stand out to me. One of them, a $3,500 John Conchar Spags, who I think in the event that there's no Jock Landale for today, it makes sense to have some lineups preloaded with him. You could see Memphis play smaller lineups in the absence of Jock Landale, and that could mean you get John Conchar playing, like mid-20s minutes. And then in that kind of scenario, him at $3,500 and 11% ownership. I think that is a viable lower owned option. And then somebody who's pulling a little bit more ownership in Vince Williams Jr. He's a good fantasy producer. It's always hard because the minutes are all over the place for this guy. And there's sometimes where, remember, like we would have John Moran out a month ago and it would be like, oh, Vince Williams, massive chalk option. And like somehow his minutes would go down in games that John Morant wasn't in, which would seem just illogical. But just because of the upside of him being like a pretty good fantasy producer, Vince Williams and John Conchar, those are the Memphis lower owned guys that I like. Do you have interest in either of them, or is there any other Memphis guys who you potentially like for a lower ownership who are not, Cam Spencer, Cedric Howard?
Yeah, I think Cam Spencer, generally just a player that, is worth whatever ownership he gets. So I'm with you that he doesn't really fit into the discussion the same way the other guys do, where it is more of a dice roll situation. But Vince Williams, like you talked about, like there was a point where he and Cam Spencer were sort of competing for that, lead point guard duties. Then Vince Williams got hurt. Cam Spencer played a little bit better. And it seems like Cam Spencer fell into favor while Vince Williams kind of fell out. But at this point, if you got Jock Landale out, especially, you just have to give minutes to a guy like Vince Williams. And it's odd that he's power forward now because he literally has been a point guard when he has played this year. But that does mean that he's probably going to be a decent producer at 4,400. He can still rebound a little bit, can create assists, does get usage. He's produced about 0.96 fantasy points per minute. So I think he looks like an okay play now. But if you get Landale out, I'm with you that he would look better. Conchar, I have a little bit of a harder time getting to just because the production's not really there for him. Only 0.82 fantasy points per minute. But like at a certain point, right now he's in for 22 minutes. If you take Landale out and the 27.3 minutes he's expected to have right now, it does feel like Conchar would probably benefit a little bit from that and get at least 27, maybe something even higher potentially, depending on what the data team goes into. So I could see Conchar looking better, but like you told me I had to choose right now, like with Landale in, I think Vince Williams is a better play. If Landale's out, I think they're both just going to be better because Memphis is getting like pretty close to, I wouldn't say dangerously shorthanded, but like concentratedly shorthanded at that point.
Yeah, and once again, you look at our projection on Vince Williams, the only thing that holds him back is those minutes. He's $4,400 and projected for 1.12 fantasy points per minute. It would be nice if he had better position eligibility than just only power forward, especially because, like you said, he's not actually a power forward. It's just they just assigned him a random position. It's crazy. For DFS, we have all these guys who just get random positions that we know they clearly don't play. But somehow, all these years later, neither FanDuel nor DraftKings have figured out how to make Shohei Ohtani a pitcher and a hitter, like the thing that's most cool about him. He's going to go his entire career never being rosterable at both positions. But he could play Vince Williams at a position he doesn't play at power forward in NBA DFS. But yeah, Vince Williams to me, very highly volatile because the minutes generally aren't there for him. But if he somehow does walk into those minutes, once again, 1.12 fantasy points per minute, that's very, very solid for a guy who's only $4,400. So definitely something to keep an eye on there. And then also want to let people know, why is it that there's value on Memphis for today? Well, here's their injury report. Some of these guys have been out for a minute. Ty Jerome, Scottie Pippen Jr., he's out. Santi Aldama, Brandon Clark, they remain out. But now you've also got John Morant. He's sitting for today. And then you've also got Jock Landale questionable with the personal issue. So this is why all this value is popping up on Memphis. In case anybody's wondering, why is it that all these Memphis guys are pulling as much ownership as they are? Because even beyond the most popular guys on the slate, you've still got Jaren Jackson Jr., 34% owned, and then Vince Williams in his own right pulling 27% ownership. Not as much as the higher owned Memphis guys, but still decent chunk of ownership because of all those guys who are out for them. Now let's start getting to some of the questions that we have here for us. And I think some of these might have been answered last show, but it's okay. No shame or harm in hitting on them again, just in case Josh didn't do his job. Here we've got from Holden Caulfield. Would you pay up slightly for Pritchard or down for Simons and/or Hauser, or ignore all and play Jalen? He's firing a single bullet into the 888 on the DKGPP, and then he says, "Let's fucking go" at the end. Who are you prioritizing from the Celtics with the current situation we know, which is, just still considering Kata being questionable, Derek White resting today? Who do you like the most overall from Boston, Spags?
If I were to take off my Derek White sitting conspiracy hat for one moment, I'll go, Peyton Pritchard, I think, is the big winner overall. He's a little bit cheaper than, frankly, I think a lot cheaper than he should be. Stokastic's projection, I do think maybe undercutting him by a little bit with only a 36.1 number that keeps him at a reasonable 39% owned. I would have him being a little bit higher than that because I do think he takes, the notable uptick in usage and assist rate overall in court time without Derek White. Obviously, Jaylen Brown also gets even higher. Like, those are going to be your two guys that really do have the ball in their hands a lot more, but I would just go Pritchard. I could certainly see the game theory and trying to go Simons or Hauser, but to me, Pritchard at 7K is just underpriced today, and I think he's really underowned as well.
Yeah, and if you look at the numbers for the year with Derek White off the court, which is what Spags was referencing right there, you've got from Peyton Pritchard not like a insane usage number, but he's generally not a crazy high usage guy. So his usage goes from 20.9% to 24.3% this year with Derek White off the court. So, relatively, that's a pretty big increase for him. And then overall, you look at what you're getting out of Peyton Pritchard, and that ends up being, across the board, pretty solid numbers. You've got about 23 points per 36 minutes, 5.5 rebounds, a little bit over 7 assists. He just kind of fills the stat sheet up in a number of different ways. So I'm with you. I think Peyton Pritchard looks pretty solid. He scores, it's 43.5 DraftKings points per 36 minutes with Derek White off the court. So I like getting to Pritchard. He gets a nice little boost there. And then also, I do like getting to Jaylen Brown. He's the Boston Celtic I currently have the second most exposure to. He is actually, of all the pay-up options, I have more of Jaylen Brown than I do of SGA Spag. So Jaylen Brown's my favorite spend-up option on the entire slate right now. Now, it's not, I don't have any one pay-up option in like half my lineups or anything like that, but I've got Jaylen Brown a little over 30% of lineups, and then I've got SGA just behind him, and then I've got Jalen Johnson just under 20% of lineups. Those are the three pay-up options I get the most exposure to. Where are you going towards your spend-ups for today?
Yeah, I got Jaylen Brown as well, the highest out of all of them right now, too. And I really thought it'd be SGA. SGA's got some crazy splits when you take these various Thunder players off. Like, he gets up to about 1.7. If you get to an even smaller sample size, like 1.8 fantasy points a minute. If you take off, we have Wiggins, Caruso, Jalen Williams. Like, you have so many key players out there. Hartenstein, too, who does contribute statistically. So I don't want to be too under on him, but right now I am getting more Jaylen Brown. He also, Greg was just talking about the rates for Peyton Pritchard. Jaylen Brown, I see at 40% usage this year. With Derek White off the court, 28% assist rate. He's averaged 1.5 fantasy points a minute. I think for Jaylen Brown, he's got pretty big upside as well, just because of that crush of possessions that he'll get and the ability to create even more with Derek White off the court. So, I don't know. Let's say without Derek White, Jaylen Brown to me seems like a really strong play, but in a perfect world, getting both those guys at like 33%, I think would be my ideal.
Yeah. They're to me definitely the two best spend up options on the slate. It's not like we have that many spend up options to talk about here of guys who are like 10K plus. But those are the ones that I'm getting the most of as of right now. And then also possible for, little benefits if Kata is ruled out as well. Let's see what we've got next. We've got a super chat from M. What is this here? MN. Boy, is my eyesight terrible. I can't even see what his name is because all the letters are blending together. MRRNB412 wants to know, did the promo on Underdog no free month given yet? Make sure to reach out to support. So reach out to support@stokastic.com. And then News God, if you're watching this right now, I'm just flagging this one for you. But let's help our guy out here and get him a free month of any single sport of his choosing. If anybody else wants to sign up through any of our affiliate partners, there's a link for that down below in the YouTube description box. So apologies there. Just follow back up MRR with News God, and he'll definitely end up hooking you up. I also want to let you guys know about some of the other deals that we have going on right now. As you know, we always have the link join ongoing, but also It is UFC 324 tomorrow. This is the first UFC card in over a month, Spag. So I want to make sure that we cooked up something for you guys who are looking to get back into the MMA DFS streets. And you sign up for any of our MMA packages with the promo code 324, whether it be a weekly package or a monthly package, and you are going to get yourself 30% off. So I'm looking forward to the return of the UFC for a couple of reasons. Number one, no more pay-per-views. That's really cool. Excited to just be able to watch everything in one platform over on a Paramount Plus, which I do think is a more fan-friendly setup than like the NBA right now. I was talking to my brother about it yesterday, and he said the hardest thing for him about watching the NBA this season is that he never knows what apps the games are on, because it is a different subscription you need for each individual slate and each individual night. So it's cool that the UFC, it's all going to be housed in one app and no more pay-per-views. And in addition to that, you get two really big cards to open it up. And also for the olds like us, Spags, because that's kind of the category we're starting to get into now. The cards start earlier now, 9 p.m. for the numbered cards as opposed to 10 p.m. So I don't have to be up until the ass crack of dawn watching fights happen. So lots of things to be excited about. And you guys could sign up for any of the UFC packages that we have. Promo code 324. Good for the weekly package, good for the monthly package. Make sure to take advantage of that if you're going to be playing MMA DFS tomorrow. I also got a slate breakdown up over on Tails if you guys want to check out Tails. Spags, I know at one point you watched some fights. I assume that you're probably are you a little bit aged out of it now with a young child, or you still tune in on occasion?
Yeah, definitely the timing, like you mentioned, is pretty tough to like keep up with fights generally. I also just feel like they don't do a great job like making the matches that I want to see generally. Lately, like, yeah, I want to see Chimaev fight every month if I could. Like that's sort of where I am with my fandom. But I think it's good to have more access for it. You know, I would worry long term about UFC phoning it in once there's no real, feet to the fire of having to draw in pay-per-view money to justify their existence. But for right now, you're gonna get some good cards, and getting deals like that with it definitely is positive. But I have won an MMA tournament before during COVID, so like I've got my MMA DFS bona fides, which is really just, I feel like it's in some respects the easiest DFS sport, and others not the easiest when you get three guys ruled out and fights getting canceled left and right, which hopefully is happening less these days.
There was a fighter who passed out at the weigh-ins today. They did cancel the fight, which my first thought when it happened was like, oh, they're still going to make him fight tomorrow, aren't they? But no, they canceled the fight. It got called off.
It's a new era.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, new platform. Let's see what we got for other questions here. Christopher Lewis, contest archetype for the Excellent Eights contest. So I'm trying to remember the Excellent Eights. That's the $8, right? That is
$50K to first, $200K prize pool.
All right. So here's the setup that I'll have for that. It'll be 25%. I know you're asking about the contest archetype, but it's generally a question that a lot of people ask. So I'll let you guys know. 50K to first, $200,000 prize pool. So I'll be selecting 25% to first. And then when it's either the $5 or the $8 150 max, I set it in between marquee and low stakes. I find that ownership to be a little bit more accurate for when they run the $5 or the $8 150 max. And then when it's the like a $15 or $18, then I have it on marquee. Before today, in between marquee and low stakes. And then a follow-up here about the 40K zone, 10K to first. For that one, I would leave it on marquee. That's like an oddly sharp tournament. I don't know how much you ever look at like post-contest sims and review some of its Spags, but for whatever reason, that $5 150 max contest, it's one of the sharpest contests in all DFS, like even more so often than some of the higher stakes. I wouldn't necessarily switch the sliders to the high stakes setting, but just be aware that that's a contest that's generally pretty sharp.
Sure. Yeah, I never play that one because I usually do the 20 max and then throw the rest into the large field tournament. And I feel like that's been my ideal way to play. But definitely, it still is 25% to first, even if the field's sharper. So ultimately, I think that's what you're defaulting to in a sim.
And we just got word that Jock Landale is available to play today with his personal issue. So that is one piece of news where, we touched on it before. Like, I think Kata most likely is. If the Landale one, when it's something personal, it's so hard to know. Oh, there we go. Kata ruled in. Fuck me. I was wrong. All right. So Kata, he is in. Landale, he is in. And then let's see. Are we going to see the official Derek White out?
We're due. Also, so that's, again, 2 today, downgrades for Q tags playing. So it really is like this old rule of thumb that used to hit like 90% of the time. And now it's just not as reliable. It's crazy.
I'm waiting for the underdog. It would be really funny if there's just no update on Derek White officially being ruled out. I mean, it's been assumed that he's, out all day, but like Spag said, there's been some fuckery there. So I'm just curious if there's an update.
He's going to play 40 minutes, and that's going to be the thing that nobody needs. He's going to break the slate, and nobody's going to play him.
Well, let's see what else we have for questions. I'm diving into the Discord channel now. It is one of the perks of being a Stokastic sub is you get access to our Discord channel. And the first question we have here, it is from M. Grizzly. He wants to know, is there anybody that I'm boosting tonight? Yeah, but I'm going to have to go back and undo some of those because I wasn't assuming that Landale was going to be out, but I just wanted to adjust some of my lineups in the event that he was going to potentially sit. So like I was boosting Vince Williams. I was also boosting John Conchar. I'll have to undo those. But for some of the Boston guys, I like boosting Peyton Pritchard and Jaylen Brown for today. Spag, just we had mentioned before, I think they get maybe a little bit more of a bump than we're giving them credit for, just based on their on-off court data for the year.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the rates per minute, like Peyton Pritchard, I would have at 1.2 fantasy points a minute with White off. Again, Jaylen Brown at a 1.5. Like I'm up on both guys. I didn't have to boost them to do that because my projections were sort of reflecting that already. Yeah, really, yeah, that's sort of, I think, one of the nice things when you like use your projections, obviously use whatever you want. Stokastic data being the best in the biz. But, you know, like for me, I don't have to boost guys too much, but I did naturally get above up on Peyton Pritchard, Jaylen Brown, Landale, and the two Williamses on OKC, Kenrich and Jaylen coming up a lot for me.
Is there anything else that we really need to be thinking heavily about as far as late swap goes now that we've got the status updates on Kada and Landale?
No, I mean, I think that was all that was sort of looming in a way that would matter. I mean, something unexpected, I guess, would be the last thing that could happen. But, you know, in terms of who's available and who's not, I mean, I still thought one thing the Stokastic did I was curious about this afternoon. I was like, really like, why doesn't Houston has to give Jayshawn Tate minutes? Like was my thought. And I know it's not something in the data right now, but I'm curious, like what happens with Houston. I don't think we'll know from the starting lineup even necessarily, but they could do something weird there because they got a lot of minutes now. They'll play the starters a bunch, but like they could do something out of left field that I think would be unexpected, especially with Holiday now officially ruled out.
Yeah, remember when they were shorthanded last year? They would just play. Do you remember there was that stretch? They would just play like Amen Thompson like 42 minutes every single night.
Yeah, I mean, they'll run guys into the ground. Like Amen's been playing. I mean, they had OT the other day, but like he's playing high 30s, you know, just over 40 in a lot of spots lately. I just don't think they trust their bench that much right now. And like the guys they have, like Finney Smith, him not being available, and Easton obviously has been a major part of their bench and like very often part of the closing group. Like they're missing with Adams as well. Like you're missing a lot of now key rotational parts that you got to fill minutes with somehow. And it seems like they prefer just to run the starters into the ground.
I didn't even know it was possible to hurt Steven Adams. I mean, other than when he has to have knee surgeries. Otherwise, I thought that he was just kind of like indestructible, but grade 3 ankle sprain for him. All right, let's see what else we have as far as questions go. We've got from JEW. He wants to know for a DraftKings single entry, locks, fades, and then a couple of guys to be different off of the optimal. All right, so let's start in parts here. Who are the players, if you're building a single entry lineup right now, Spags, you just feel you could not go without? It's going to be a lot of the chalk for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm with you. It's going to be pretty chalky for me as well. Peyton Pritchard, Cam Spencer, my two highest point guards that I think would be part of the build. I would just put them in at guard spots. Point guard, shooting guard, probably be the first things I put in. Coward, your two OKC Williamses, they're both then going to be in over half my lineups. I think that's the core. And then, you know, some of the pay-up guys we've talked about as well.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Cam Spencer, Peyton Pritchard, I guess still for single entry, it would still be Jalen Williams for me. Also crazy popular, but at that kind of price point, probably just play him anyway. As far as fades go, so to me, I think the easiest way to get a little bit different, this is going to answer kind of two of your questions at once. I presume that we're going to see SGA be pretty popular in single entry. I like pivoting, go to Jaylen Brown as my pay up guy instead of SGA.
I like them both a lot. I think they both have really good cases. Part of me feels like with the value you have, I don't know that I have this in my lineups right now, but an SGA Jaylen Brown lineup too, if you could somehow pull that off and it doesn't feel awful, I think they both have massive upside here. Like I think they really can be a level above what they normally produce because both have really outstanding rates and small sample size with the guys that are missing from both their teams.
Yeah, you got no Derek White once again for Boston. And then on the OKC side, you've got no Jalen with an E. Williams. I still think it should be illegal to have two players with the same name on the same team, but that's something we have to deal with until the NBA changes their rules to fit what it is that I would like to see. Young Metro Boomin, best players at each position for FanDuel And then he says, thank you at the end. All right. So let's see what I've got on the FanDuel side of things. All right. Got some FanDuel lineups pulled up here, Spags. This is going to be pretty easy. For the point guard, shooting guard for me, it's going to be, because pretty much everybody who's a point guard is also a shooting guard on FanDuel. It's going to be Peyton Pritchard and Cam Spencer as my point guard and shooting guards.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be mine. Peyton Pritchard only point guard only. So that's at least one way that it makes it more unique.
He's shooting guard also.
Yeah, so Cam Spencer would be my shooting guard, Peyton Pritchard my point guard.
All right, at small forward, here's where things could get, a little bit more different over on FanDuel. The small forward position is largely dog shit, so I'll go Durant at 14% ownership at small forward.
I am team MPJ generally. Do think he's generally also going to be a better DK play because of the 3-point upside with him shooting like almost 10 a game in a lot of spots. But I think for FanDuel, he still stands out as a 21% outpull rate, 17% ownership. I think that works.
Power forward, give me Triple J.
I think I would also go with Jaren Jackson. If you have the money, Jalen Johnson, not bad. If you don't have the money, Vince Williams, not bad.
So now at center, I'll go Jalen Williams at 4K.
Yeah, that's really nice on FanDuel.
Also playing at power forward.
Yeah, I could go Mark Williams too. I think that wouldn't be a bad one.
All right. Thank you very much for the question there, Young Metro Boomin. Larson wants to know, can we compare Jalen Williams versus Donovan Mitchell at shooting guard for FanDuel single entry? Spags, I mean, we've kind of already talked about how much we like Jalen Brown over the course of the show. So, yeah, for me, it's Jalen Brown over Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah. Donovan Mitchell, I think certainly an okay play. Obviously going against Sacramento, he could put up a lot of points there if he really wants to. But again, like we talked about with Jalen Brown and talked about with SGA, there's just really an underlying like, oh, there might be a monster underneath here because having Derek White out for Jalen Brown. For Donovan Mitchell, he's just kind of the same dude with Darius Garland off. Like everybody else gains a little bit. He definitely can, in terms of a ceiling outcome, do more. But with him being 24% on FanDuel, he's owned more than enough on DK as well. I just don't think you're getting the discount to be there today.
Let's hop back over to the super chats and see what we've got over here. We've got Langston. Langston wants to know, it is a 2v2. He is saying, I assume this is Hauser and Duran or Durant and Garza for the last two wins. So now that we have Kata confirmed, I have no interest in Garza.
Yeah, same page. I don't love the other side either. I'm generally a big Jalen Duran fan, but this is on paper not the spot to play him. But I would go Hauser and Duran.
Starting lineup for the Rockets, by the way, we've got Thompson, Okogie, Durant, Smith, and Şengün. So nothing crazy there. Nothing crazy.
Yeah, off the bench is where that could get weird, I guess, because Okogie's going to play his, maybe 25 minutes today, something a little bit above that. But they certainly jerk his minutes around a lot normally, so they might do it again today.
And then, hey, somebody asking about your guy, Corey Randall. Is Kenrich Williams in play today on DraftKings? Yeah, he wouldn't be like a single entry option for me, but I thought Spags made some pretty good cases for him at the top of the show. We've got a couple of teams with, pretty the Grizzlies as well as OKC with a decent amount of chalk there. And looking for a lower owned guy to get to from OKC, maybe instead of Jalen Williams with a Y, then I think Kenrich Williams fits the bill. That was, more or less what your case was at the top of the show, if I remember correctly, Spags.
Yeah, he's a great producer. And again, small sample size stuff, but he does get up to about 24% usage with the various Thunder off the court. So like he's a guy that gets rebounds, assists, hustles for steals and all that. I just like him whenever there's any vacancy in minutes for OKC because he always kind of finds a way to earn more. But yeah, he's lesser owned for a reason, but I think that makes him appealing for tournaments.
And getting back to the Discord, Einsteinium, now that he's starting, Einsteinium wants to know, what do we make of Okogie as a possible value play, Spag? Is he somebody whose name you're going to be clicking?
He doesn't often come up for me, and I'm actually curious if he's anywhere that would matter in my data. For Okogie, like the big thing is he's just not been a great producer on the year, and I think for me, I'm not normally going to get to guys like that who get the starting run but aren't doing a ton while they're out there. On the year, he's putting up 0.64 fantasy points a minute, accounting for the matchup today. I'm at 0.62, and he really didn't get a big minutes boost from Stokastic either. Like it's not like he's suddenly projected for 27. They still have him playing 21 and change. So I don't see it for Okogie, but he's starting and he's shooting guard small forwards. If he took the shot, I don't think I would be mad at you for it.
So we do have, a pretty conservative minutes projection on him, which you would reference Spags. But the real key thing is 0.63 is our fantasy point per minute projection on him. And one thing that definitely hurts is he moves into the starting line. Now, as opposed to playing off the bench, he's playing with Thompson, Durant, Jabari Smith, Şengün. Like, is he ever going to get shots up? Like, unless they're just wide open looks, probably not all that frequently. So let's look at our projection here. 0.63 fantasy points per minute. Think about it this way, guys. You give him 30 minutes at this projection, you're still only getting somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 fantasy points. So it's tough when somebody's that poor of a fantasy producer. Random things could happen. Somebody just shoots like 75% from the field. He takes like 4 shots and goes 3 of 4, and that kind of changes the outlook or something like that. But in our data, he really doesn't look all that good with a 13.73 fantasy point projection. And we were anticipating him to start already. So he's not showing up in any lineups for me right now.
Yeah, the field's at 1%. If you got 5, you're 5x the field. That's more than enough, I think.
Yeah, I am 0x the field at the moment where I'm at. Yeah, he's in 0 out of 150 lineups for me. The Black Mamba wants to know, how are we handling the non-SGA Williams OKC pieces? All right, so it's kind of funny. I assume that he meant by Williams, Jalen Williams, not Kenrich Williams. He's come up a few times in conversations. We won't rehash that. But is there anybody else who's prominently making their way into lineups for you outside of SGA and Jalen Williams?
I think it's Jalen, Kenrich. Those are my highest exposed guys. SGA at 25% right now. I'm going to rerun stuff in a minute because the data just updated. Isaiah Joe at 34% coming in for me here. It does seem like he's got a decent minutes ceiling. With at this point, the Thunder being really missing a lot of key rotational guys. But honestly, I think you can make the case for even Kason Wallace, Lou Dort, a little bit less so. These guys are not normally great producers, both of them around 0.7 fantasy sports minute on the year. But they're going to be out there like 28, 29 minutes. Maybe even low 30s if things, break their way. They have a lot of chance just from that. I want to consolidate around the guys we talked about, the SGA, Kenrich and Jalen, Isaiah Joe. But it feels a little bit short-sighted to be, pretty much out on Kason. I have him at 7%. I've got Dorton too.
I got Isaiah Joe's pulling some ownership. That looks fine to me. He's showing up in some lineups. Let's see, I'm on the same page with Kenrich. Chet, whatever, 10% guys that pay up. Nothing like super crazy for me from OKC though. There's nobody who's like off the bench pulling, 4 or 5% ownership and showing up in like 20% or anything like that. So I'm not doing any, I'm really not doing anything much different than the field with OKC, with what the field is doing with OKC.
Also, good call out by RW Smart here. White finally out on the injury report. Thank you. He is out. So the 631, he's finally been ruled out if this being all day. Again, just really odd. Why didn't they do this? If everybody knew a day ago, why wasn't he on the midnight one? It's whatever.
Yeah. So the NBA, they've got these new injury reports that come out every 15 minutes. But it's just inaccurate updates for the most part, it's accurate. But there's still like omissions that are made from it. It's not like the perfect injury report. People are all upset. Like, oh my God, there's too much information out for the public with these 15-minute injury reports. And that's just not ended up being the case at all. All right, what do we got next here? Mega Elite. Not a question, but you give out Big Dick Energy. All right, cool. Nice.
I'm underneath you, so I could feel it. It's actually resting on my head right now with the the screen is laid out.
Yeah, no, it's always good when you hear that from somebody whose name is Mega Elite and has a picture of another man as their Discord profile picture.
Yeah, take it where you can get it.
Yeah, and not just it's a Dwight Schrute is the profile picture too. But yeah, no, big compliment. It's actually why I get That's why I got into the game here, Spags. A lot of people have different motivations for getting into the DFS content game. Me, it's just been to, attract all the people that come to us on the internet. No better way to meet interesting people.
Well, especially the Dwight Schrute fans. They're the ones. They're the ones you want the most.
But thank you for what I guess is a compliment of sorts. Einstein, he wants to know, where does Jalen Johnson rank as a pay-up option for you? 3rd. he's behind SGA and Jaylen Brown for me, but he's the next one for me. Spags is Jalen Johnson, somebody who's showing up for you the third most behind Jaylen Brown and SGA, or a different pay up guy?
I was just shy of 20% of him in my most recent run, so I'll see where I land with him. But yeah, he would be my third highest pay up. Yeah, I got him in 18%. I could see that being closer to 20 when I rerun stuff. But yeah, he would be the one. Definitely not. I would say today he's a tier behind Jalen and SGA, I think, in my opinion.
All right. It is about time to do another run of the Sims for myself, because we get that projection update a few minutes ago, and also the ownership is updated. So I'm going to read off to people, Spags, the now highest projected players on FanDuel and DraftKings, and then we'll run the Nuke of the night. So this will give you a couple minutes here to update your lineups. Here's what we got for the most popular players on the FanDuel side of things in our latest update. We've got Peyton Pritchard, 63% owned. Cam Spencer, 50% owned. A 47% owned Triple J, 44% owned SGA. Donovan Mitchell, 40% owned over on FanDuel. So per the question we got before about Jaylen Brown versus Donovan Mitchell, you are saving yourself a little bit of ownership by going to Jaylen Brown as opposed to playing Donovan Mitchell on FanDuel. On the DraftKings side of things, let's see what we've got. We have 57% ownership to Cam Spencer, 51% to Jalen Williams, 45% for Cedric Howard. Pritchard now at 45%, got Triple J 37%, and nobody else is over 30% owned on the DraftKings side of things. So those are our most recent ownership projections. And now, Spags, it is time for the Nuke of the night. All right, Spags, it is time for the Nuke of the night. And based on some of the comments I've seen from the audience, there seems to be a little bit of a relief that it's you giving out a Nuke of the night instead of Josh. I don't even know who Josh picked, but I had like 10 notifications this morning. People like, could you not allow Josh to ever do a Nuke of the night again? So I never even thought to ask who it was that he gave out yesterday, but people were not happy with the results. So we've got Spags as an upgrade for the Nuke of the night here. So the bar seems to be very low based on whoever it is that Josh gave out last night. But who do you have for the Nuke of the night today?
Yeah, and it's funny because Eric is so good at it. I feel like he hits all the time, at the very least from his touts I see on Twitter. It seems like he's hitting Nuke of the night left and right. I think for me, based on everything we talked about today, I'm surprised to see Kenrich Williams be as low as he's going to be in terms of the ownership. He's not exactly like unowned or anything, but relative to the chalkier Thunder players, does seem like he'll be a bit underowned. And I think he's a monster. He's actually hit for me as a Nuke of the night before. So I'll go my boy Kenny Hustle, Kenrich Williams.
So there's a guy who I have showing up in lineups now who was previously listed as questionable, in Jock Landale. He's pulling some ownership in our projections, Spags, but I do wonder if him having the questionable tag all day could potentially lower his ownership a little bit. And also keep in mind, this isn't an injury. He's not dealing with an illness. It was just a personal matter. So there's no reason to think he's going to be restricted or anything like that. I just think we're getting a guy who's projecting pretty well for us. Look in our data, Jock Landale, $5,500. We got him projected for right around 30 fantasy points. He was pulling 27% ownership, but I wouldn't be surprised if that comes in a little bit lower because he was holding on to that Q tag all day. So, Spags, give me a potentially lower owned than projected Jock Landale for tonight. Is he somebody who's landing in your lineups now that he has been confirmed in?
I'm rerunning stuff right now, but let's see, because I think it just pulled through. Yeah, I got Landale at 31%, which is not crazily above the field's 28, but I think that's a stand that I could see when I kind of put some min exposure or some max exposures on guys, if it comes up a little bit more. But he's projected well for me all day. And again, I do think the underlying rates, like he's been one of the winners of Memphis' shorthanded groups. Losing Aldama in particular helps him out a lot. So yeah, I like Landale a lot. I think that's a good pick.
All right, so that's what I've got for my Nuke of the night. No, one more time. If you guys haven't done it, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and check out everything we're doing over on Tails. It is totally free to download the app. We got lots of content up there. If you're going to be playing the UFC slate tomorrow, I've got a breakdown there for it using the Stokastic Sims, which are also 30% off our weekly or monthly packages with the promo code here that you guys will see on screen. so that you guys get the visual of 324. So make it easier to remember. That's also it's UFC 324 tomorrow. That's why the promo code is 324. And that'll get you 30% off any of our UFC packages. All right. What questions do we have that came in here? All right. A couple. We've got from our guy, JRNW1YV. Boy, he's got his YouTube username is a automated password generator, apparently. But JR-NW1, or maybe that's just his name. It's one of Elon Musk's kids. That's what he's named his latest child. Top 5 plays under 5K, regardless of position on DraftKings. Who are your favorite under 5K options for tonight, Spags?
KCP, Isaiah Joe, I think would be 2 that are coming up the most to me. KCP might be a hot take, but he is coming up. Under 5K. Jalen Wells, I would throw in there too. Another beneficiary from the lack of guys on that team. Kenrich would be one of them. That's 4. And Jalen Williams the Y. That's 5.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think you were missing out on a Jalen Williams there, but you threw him in at the end. He's the most obvious one. Let's see. Yeah, he went under 5K. Is there anybody else that I would add to that mix? If you want a contrarian one, Baylor Shearman on the Celtics. He's pulling single-digit ownership. He's showing up in a little bit of lineups for me. So if you're looking for like a single-digit owned cheap guy, that's somebody else that'll add into the mix as well. CZW, welcome to the party. He's a new YouTube member there. Welcome. JB Hughes wants to know, can I run the optimal lineup? And thanks. Absolutely. Let's go to the single lineup Sims Spags, and I will run on 0% randomness our top lineups for both DraftKings and FanDuel and see what shows up. On the DraftKings side of things to start, Pritchard, Cam Spencer, Jalen Wells, Jaren Jackson Jr., Jalen Williams, Cedric Howard, Jalen Johnson, Mark Williams. A couple guys in here a little more contrarian than I would have expected in Jalen Wells and Jalen Johnson. No SGA in the optimal lineup. Instead, we got Jalen Johnson as the spend up. If I was playing a cash game, I would probably lean towards SGA, just given what the ownership is. But nothing crazy in the DraftKings optimal lineup. Let's see for FanDuel. We'll do the same deal. On the on the FanDuel side, it is Donovan Mitchell, Cam Spencer, Peyton Pritchard, Vince Williams, Trey Murphy, Jalen Tyson, Evan Mobley, Triple J, and Jock Landale as your highest possible projected FanDuel lineup. So JB Hughes, hopefully that helps you out, and appreciate the super chat there. Vince Williams, interesting. Vince Williams, who's not asking about Vince Williams. Why does he? He already knows how he's going to play today. Cedric Howard or Mark Williams on FanDuel. I'm kind of curious how you have that as a 1v1 on FanDuel. Must be like, I don't know.
You must just be trying to think of how to spend that money because they're 5,400, 5,300.
There's no flex spot. They're different positions. It can't be a single game slate because they're not playing against each other.
He's just trying to figure out, like, he's got a bunch of spots left and he doesn't know. I don't know. It's Coward, though, I think.
Yeah, I'll go, like, in general, I get more exposure to Coward, so I'll answer him. I'm kind of curious, though, how that question came about, but I guess not all that important. Let's see what else we've got in the Discord, because I thought I saw another question. Yeah, here's one. Einstein wants to know, is Reed Shepherd showing up in lineups for us? We talked about Houston being shorthanded. Do you like Reed Shepherd as a pivot option off of some of the Memphis value or maybe any of the other value on the slate, Spags?
I don't think I'm getting Reed Shepherd very much. He only 10%. I mean, he's 4% owned, so I guess I'm 2.5x the field if we want to take it that way. But I don't think he's like a priority play to me. Getting more of the Memphis guys, getting more of the OKC guys, like that's more where my money is going. But I think he's an okay play if you're not going that direction.
Doesn't project crazy well or anything like that at $4,800, 22 fantasy points. So we have mentioned Houston shorthanded. Maybe they give him a couple of extra minutes and, maybe he could benefit from that, but not a priority. If I was playing one lineup, he wouldn't be in it. The 4% ownership seems, more or less fair. Spags mentioned he's overweight by getting him into 10% of lineups, but, once again, no real kind of massive stand that Spags has taken there either with Reed Shepherd. Just kind of a guy who exists If he was a last man in, I wouldn't have an issue with it. If you told me you have like 30% of Reed Shepherd, I'd be like, that seems like a lot of him for today. But I don't have a strong Reed Shepherd take. Maybe plays a couple extra minutes, gets hot, but not somebody I'm going to be prioritizing.
Yeah, I agree. There are minutes to go around. If he shoots really well, he could be out there, but he's just not guaranteed anything. So that's the kind of player that, to get above the field, it only takes 10%. You want to go nuts, get 15%, and then you're more than covered there.
Just kind of something interesting, but Christopher in the chat says the optimal win 12K over the salary cap that we have in Australia. I don't even know what sites they're over there.
They'll have like silly names, in my opinion, where it's like Dream 7 and Happy Town, and like it seems like a lovely place, I guess, if you could play there.
Yeah, it's just all stereotypical. It's like Kangaroo Shrimp on the Barbie DFS. That's the name of the site. Let's see. Was there any other questions? All right, nothing else. So we got 10 minutes left here, Spags. And also, if you guys haven't done it, ask you one more time to like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you have been using Tails and enjoying your experience, please do leave us a 5-star rating and review. That is something that benefits us a whole lot and helps keep our content free. Is there anybody you are not getting very much exposure to that makes you nervous when you look at your lineups? Obviously not enough to where you're all of a sudden boosting them, but who is most live to just ruin your night?
I'm coming in real low on Jaren Jackson right now, only getting 10%, Fields at 31. And he's one of those players where he has looked better lately. He's produced about 1.2 fantasy points per minute when you take, John Morant off, you take Aldama off, you take Edey off. So he does start to look more like old Jaren Jackson. It's just, I don't think he does enough in every category for me to feel good about it. I think he has to mostly get there through usage. But the Fields getting him at almost 4x the amount I am. So that's definitely the one player that I'm just like not there ownership wise in any real way.
So for myself, I just finished updating lineups. I'm kind of perusing through it for the first time. Let me sort by the leverage column, see who it is that I'm coming in underweight to the field to. Nothing like there's I'm looking through now. There's a bunch of guys who are like 7 to 10% owned who I only have in a couple of lineups. There's nobody who's like 50% owned that's in 10% of lineups for me. The one that stands out the most, I only have 1 out of 150 lineups with Cade. So in the event that Cade has a ceiling, which is very live to happen, I don't have very much of Cade Spags. I ended up getting to different pay up options instead. So Cade being the highest scorer on the slate, which I acknowledge is fairly live to happen, would definitely be ruinous for me. I would prefer Jaylen Brown or SGA to be a higher scorer than him.
Yeah, I mean, so does the field, but I agree that like they're just better plays than Cade. I mean, it's tough spot, tough matchup, tough total, like all the stuff for Cade does not seem ideal, but that sometimes it's what wins a tournament. We all know that.
And yes, it is true. Quentin Rampage Jackson, in honor of the UFC returning tomorrow, he will not be playing today. Just sitting and resting up, making sure that he's good for tomorrow. We got a couple of super chats that came in here as well. By the way, as what you, I'm pretty happy to be even with the field on Triple J. Over the course of his career, I don't know there's been a single more inconsistent player in DFS. You get great games out of him. You get bad games. You get games where he's playing really well, but he gets 5 fouls in 18 minutes. So he's a guy who often when he's chalk, I'm really happy to just be even with the field. If he has a bad game, isn't going to ruin me. If he has a great game, cool, I'm on board. It's such a wide range of outcomes with Triple J. So I am happy to be even with the field on him. But that's where I'm at with him. Let's see.
I mean, I find it scary, so I'm glad you're happy. Some of us are just braver than others,
CZW, he wants to know Triple J and Wells or Hauser and Okongwu. That's Triple J and Wells for me.
That is for me too. Even if I'm low on Triple J, I think he's a better play than that other grouping. Okongwu just doesn't pop in rates that much with the guys out. It seems like he's been more than appropriately priced for weeks now.
Yeah, I've got him in a chunk of lineups, so nothing really different than the field. Nicholas Johnson wants to know a lineup with both SGA and Cunningham. So I have a lot of, or not like a ton of SGA, but him and Jaylen Brown are my 2 favorite spend-up options. I don't necessarily have an issue with SGA and Cade together. It's just I have so little of Cade. It's not a combination I have.
Yeah, if I'm going to go to something, it'd be SGA and Jaylen Brown, like we talked about. Cade is not, to me, he's not a consideration on the slate, but you'll definitely be doubly low owned if you get to SGA and Cade because people will not be doing that combo if they can afford to pay up for both.
Let's see. There is no question attached here from Jordan. Here it is. All right, I found it. He threw it into the YouTube chat. I got you. It is a 3v3 question. So gear up, Spags. We've got Jordan is asking us, Joe, Triple J, and Mark Williams on one side, Donovan Mitchell, Shireman, and Conchar on the other side. So now that we have Jock Landale in, it's going to be the Isaiah Joe, Triple J, and Mark Williams combo for me.
Yeah, honestly, it doesn't even seem fair that you could play that first combo compared to the second combo. Like you're taking on two pretty shitty guys to get to Donovan Mitchell. So yeah, I'd go the Triple J, Mark Williams, and Isaiah Joe.
Ankle Break wants to know, is Zion a good pivot off of Jaren Jackson over on DK? I have 14% of Zion. I don't have an issue with making that pivot. Also, keep in mind, you can actually make a case. This doesn't usually happen on the other sides of games for NBA, but I do think there's a case to be made that if Zion has a ceiling game, there's a pretty good chance that means Triple J got into foul trouble.
Yeah, that's not a bad point. Zion I've been low on this year. Like the minutes aren't awesome, and he's been a good per minute producer, but not quite as good as he's been historically. Like he's not allowing these other guys to like just get these. They're actually getting to shoot. Is really what I'm trying to say here. In the past, like you take every possession away on New Orleans. Now Trey Murphy can shoot. Like even Fears can shoot. Queen can shoot. So I think for Zion, it's been tough for him. But like I have only 5% Zion. I have 10% Jaren Jackson. So I'm not really the spokesman for either here.
Amy wants some tiers picks. So yeah, I'll run through this real quick here, Spags. Tier 1 for me, that'll be Jaylen Brown. Tier 2, that'll be Donovan Mitchell. Tier 3, that'll be, lots of guys out in tier 3. So tier 3, that'll be Amen Thompson. Tier 4, that'll be the aforementioned, Triple J's in that tier. So I'll go Triple J in tier 4. Tier 5, that one for me is going to be Peyton Pritchard with Derek White out. And then finally, tier 6, that will be Cam Spencer for me with no Ja Morant. So he gets a little bit of a favorable tier 6 guy there with no Ja Morant. Kind of like cheating that Cam Spencer's there. But it seems to happen for whatever reason more often than not. Just guys are in tier 6 that have a key teammate out, and then they just end up projecting way better than everybody else. So Cam Spencer in tier 6. And now let's see if there's any questions for us to make sure we get to in Discord before we get to lock. Maybe not. Discord looks like it's frozen for me. All right. So 2 minutes left to go. Let me just scroll through here really quick and make sure that there wasn't any. Oh, here we go. All right. Now it's working. All right. Bronxy boy Rob. Hey, Greg, what's doing? A little cold, but thanks for asking, Bronx. On DK, who to go with for $3,700 at shooting guard or small forward? Shireman or Conchar? I prefer Shireman to Conchar, Spags.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot of love for either, but I would go Shireman, I guess.
Yeah, between the two, I would have really. So I think Shireman's a fine contrarian option. I really would have liked Conchar in the event that we had no Jock Landale, but doesn't matter because Jock Landale is playing now. And then we got, I was going to say another question, but it's actually just the same question typed out twice there. Here we've got Jeff Williams. Why aren't Holmgren and Wallace getting more love? Primarily because, in the case of Wallace, it's because of the amount of depth that OKC has. They just have so many wings that they could go to, even with guys out. It's like 3 guys get hurt from OKC. They'll call somebody up from the G League. They're like, this guy's probably a really good role player. Like they just print. It's like they got a 3D printer and they just generate good role players in OKC. So Case and Wallace, he's got competition with a lot of guys. Chet is just more a price point thing.
Yeah, I think the rates don't really come up enough for any of them. And yeah, I think your point too is that they do have a lot of depth. It is getting to the point where the depth they have left, like Chris Youngblood's been pretty crappy. Like Brooks Barnhizer has been pretty crappy. Usman Jiang has some upside, but like we are kind of down. These guys have to play minutes, but they just haven't produced that well. To me, is like why Chet and Case on Wallace are not coming up.
Yeah. And if this is at least off memory about as expensive as Chet has been all season, like he's normally a guy who's like in the mid 7K range. Now we're getting him over 8K. So yeah, just for those reasons, it's opportunity cost. And then finally, Rabashua says he's getting to 45% of Mark Williams on FanDuel. Is that too much? No, if that's what you're getting out of the Sims, it's not like some sort of insane number. Mark Williams is favorably priced over on FanDuel. I don't have an issue with taking a Mark Williams stand on the FanDuel side of things, Spags. You've got Mark Williams is, $5,900 on FanDuel. We've got him with a positive optimal rate. I'm cool with Mark Williams being a guy to build around at center.
Yeah, I don't have any issue with it. Definitely not my most excited play in the world, but he's fine and he's cheap enough, I think. And definitely a good total versus Atlanta. It's just Phoenix, like the guards, I don't like because there's so many guys with usage now available on that roster.
Yeah, I can't believe how effective Dylan Brooks has been, and with the amount of shots that he's taken too. Like, Houston swapped out Kevin Durant for Dylan Brooks, and like significantly, they've got a little bit more of an identity as a team in terms of what it is they're doing. They were kind of all over the place last year, but I can't. I thought that team was going nowhere. I can't believe how much better they've been this year than they were the last couple of years. But guys, thank you all very much for watching. We have reached lock. If you have not done it, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also want to remind you one final time, we've got the UFC promo going on. Promo code 324 will get you 30% off any of our MMA DFS packages. Link to sign up is down below in the YouTube description box. I've got content up over on Tail, so check that out to help you build out your lineups as well. Other than that, have a great weekend. If you live in the Northeast like Spags and I, hopefully you guys are prepared for the storm and not just finding out about it, today as we talk about it on shows. But stay safe, have a good weekend, and good luck.